we got a quorum. Good morning. This is the Board of County Commissioners Budget Workshop, second workshop. It's 9:04 a.m. We're going to get started. If you'd please take your seats. Yesterday, during our workshop, we completed the lion's share of the agenda. The only thing remaining for our consideration today is what we're going to do with our community partners and the funding requests that have come in from community partners. So today, without objection, we're going to go right into the community partners discussion. I'm going to go right down the list. We have a proposed list of funding for proposed community partners, and I'm going to go right down the list and invite anyone from any of these entities to come up and address the board. I would ask that you, if you come speak before the board, after you're done speaking, please sign up in the back. Sharon Pitts will be back there. Please sign up with her. There she is right there, so that we have a record of the correct spelling of your name and who you are and who you're representing. If you're not in attendance, we're going to skip to the next one. Any folks who are not here, I'll give them one last chance at the end, if they didn't make it on time, to come back up. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. First one up today is 211, first call, United Way. Is there anyone here from 211?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
What's our drop dead time?
9:30?
Sounds great.
No. Probably 10:30. Yeah, 10:30.
Hey, Jeff, can we take both of theirs at the same time?
Say again?
Can we take both of United?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to do United Way at the same time, 211?
Sure.
And then United?
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be
So start
great.
with 211, and then we'll do United
Sure,
Way.
absolutely.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Laura Gilliam. I'm the CEO of United Way of West Florida. Appreciate the chance to be here and answer any questions that you might have. This funding supports 211, which is a 24/7 information referral line, operates to answer calls from people in Escambia County who might have issues, challenges paying rent, finding health care, child care. It also activates during a disaster. So we are operational in the Emergency Operations Center. When it activates, we triage calls for from people who have sustained damage as a result of a natural disaster. So, and these are calls that would otherwise go to 911 or to your offices. So it's a way of making sure that we're shoring up those resources and connecting people to those resources that may help them. We are an accredited program, so we've received last year, 2 years ago, we received our next round of 5 years of accreditation. So these are people who have gone through lots of training. They are paid staff, and they are professionals who are doing a great job in the community. So we appreciate the support that the county provides, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have
Okay,
about
so we're on
211.
211. Any questions for Ms. Gilliam on 211? Okay, thank you. So do you want to go right directly into the United Way Community Investment?
Sure.
Okay.
So the community investment process is really it's a grant process that we use, very robust. It's volunteer driven. We have staff who manage that and oversee it, but it's the way that we distribute funds into the community to agencies that are working in the areas of health, education, and financial stability. So we are holding them accountable for the use of the funds. We are holding them accountable to outcomes in those areas. And so we get semi-annual reports from them. We also will be doing site visits as well in the coming months. And so again, this is a way, this is our annual funds distribution process. It is very robust. It starts in the fall with a vetting certification process, and the grant process itself starts in January and runs till about May. So lots of oversight, accountability, and ensuring that the funds are going into those organizations that are going to use them to make the greatest impact. We prioritize with this money, we prioritize matching funds.
Yes,
so we are looking for organizations that can use this funding as a match. So
Fantastic.
again, happy to answer any questions. Appreciate the past support.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Gilliam.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. Thanks for the great work you do at United Way.
Thank you.
What's the targeted area for your community investment? Is it seniors, children at risk, or what's the focus areas?
All of the above.
All of the
I mean,
above.
seriously, we invest dollars in organizations that are working with young people at risk, older adults, the ALICE population, so people who are trying to make ends meet but are working 2-3 jobs. So it really is kind of across the board.
And another quick question, because I know we fund a lot of outside agencies. So is there a duplication? And so if they were getting funding, outside agency funding from the county, would they still be eligible? And do y'all cross-check that in any way?
We have not. I would have to look and see, which agencies are getting funding from the county and which agencies are getting funding through the community investment process. That hasn't been a request, but it's certainly something that we could implement in this next round of funding.
No. And the reason I asked, because, obviously, Achieve Escambia did their analysis. United Way, you have your community investment focus areas. Now we have the Children's Trust Fund. And so, they're, at the end of the day, they're still all taxpayer dollars. And so,
Yes.
of concern, Mr. Chairman, for me, would be the duplication of people going to different sources, but it's all different places for funding, but they're all coming from the same source.
Yep.
So that would be of concern for me.
Okay.
Commissioner Under?
Thank you. One of the most valuable things that the United Way does is produces the ALICE threshold information, and that allows us to kind of move past some of the false narrative about poverty rates and things
Right.
like that. The ALICE threshold really defines, the difference between those who are able to sustain themselves and those who require government assistance, our job, right? And those who are at that threshold that events outside of their control could cause them to need it. What is the most recent ALICE threshold data that we're using for Escambia County?
So the main source of data that the United Way of Northern New Jersey uses, they produce the ALICE report for the states that do this, they weren't able to access that. And so what they have done is they've identified 3 major focus areas for this year instead of one large report. So they're focusing on children. That report is out. They're focusing, another report will come out, I think this month, and that's adults with disabilities or individuals with disabilities, and then veterans in November. And so basically they're, the snapshot, it's a snapshot of each of those populations. Starting next year, we'll go back to the full report, but because of COVID, they weren't able to access that other survey that was done that they rely heavily on was not available,
Yeah,
was not done.
it's very frustrating because this is, in my opinion, during my tenure on this board, it's been the most important document that I have
Yeah.
for how I look at Escambia County with regard to those issues. And at the time when we need it the most, we don't have it.
Yeah, and and exactly. It has, it's been interesting, the targeted focus has really kind of brought to light some interesting information. You mentioned the Trust and Achieve, and that is data that I need to get to them because it's focusing specifically on children.
Okay, I say all that to say this: is there anything that we would be able to do? Could I use funding out of my discretionary funds, for example, in order to get that information for Escambia County, in spite of the fact that I know we can't do it for the entire nation, so I don't have that comparative value to do comparative analysis with other counties. But the reality is that the truth in Escambia County is very different than it was even 3 years ago. We have a lot of new folks that have moved into Escambia County, and just the economy being what it is. So we're operating from information from not incomplete information. So is that something that we would be able to do?
I can check. It's generally done it's done at a statewide level and then taken out by county. I can go back and take a look. I can definitely get you the more focused report and make sure that you have that one for children, and then the upcoming reports on adults with or individuals with disabilities and veterans. So again, it's not what we would hope to have, but it's something. And I suspect when we get the report next year, we're going to see an uptick in those numbers simply because of the pandemic.
Yeah. So outside of this funding, obviously that's being discussed here today, I would be happy to, if there's if it's within the realm of my authority and capability here, to get that information for Escambia County.
Okay. Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for being here.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Next up, ACTS, Another Chance Transitional Services. Are they represented today? Seeing no one, we'll move forward. Be Ready Alliance Coordinating for Emergencies has withdrawn their request.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I would like to move that money to emergency management to give them a position to, historically Brace has, been in emergency management and ESF, and And I think EM feels that they can bring a position in and do the same job if we'd be interested in putting this money towards that.
Well, I think that would definitely be a board decision. I'd like to hear from my counterparts on that as well. Stephen, you had lit up
Yeah,
your light.
Mr. Chairman, let's just set it aside right now. I mean, we're talking about adding a position. Let's take that up at the appropriate time. I mean, the outside agency budget workshop, I don't think is that right now.
Okay. So, Robert, we'll take it under advisement. We'll talk about it at the appropriate time. Yeah, Lumen and then.
No, and that's what I'm going to say. I don't know what magical number we're trying to get to, but with the reallocation of fund, there are some priorities in District 3 that we're going to have a conversation about the reallocation. So, I mean, Robert, I don't see that I'm opposed, but certainly focus areas of what we have in youth and things that are a priority to me is where I believe we're going to have to put some money into programs.
And again, I think we'll have that conversation, when we're not, because here today we're focused on the outside agencies. So, Doug,
Yeah.
you're recognized?
Yeah, I think that especially with the improvements that we made on the emergency management side, this is definitely an area that would, insourcing it might be a smart decision. So, definitely a discussion worth having during this budget discussion.
Right on. Next up, Community Health, Northwest Florida. I see Chandra is here. And again, for those entities that have a representative that's going to speak, what I'm requesting is that you see Sharon Pitts outside and fill out a form again, so you have we have your correct name and your information. Good morning, Chandra.
Hi,
You're
good
recognized.
morning.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me, Ms. Smiley, just real quick. I mean, as we look at these dollars, which is, less than 1% of our budget, they're all simply, to me, human service dollars. And so, to me, it's a better discussion out of the general fund and some of the reserve funds about operational things. And that was a discussion on yesterday. This is an outside agency funding for human services is what this is about.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Good
All
morning.
right.
You're recognized.
Good morning. Chandra Smiley, Community Health Northwest Florida. I want to, again, thank you for your continued support in funding community health. We're able to use the dollars that we receive from the county as low-income match. So we're able to pull down additional federal dollars and bring it into the community to offset uninsured care for our patient base. So last year, our uninsured charitable amount exceeded $6 million, and we were able to utilize the 414, send it up, and brought down a little over $1 million in low-income pool match. So this year, the same. The FMAP rate has changed a little bit from last year. It was an enhanced rate last year where for every 33 cents that was sent up, another 67 was brought down. This year, it's decreased for every 40 cents. It brings down another 60. So, but still a significant amount, and certainly goes towards contributing, again, offsetting uninsured costs and care.
Yes, ma'am.
So.
Any questions for Ms. Smiley? Yeah.
Appreciate all the good work and the work that you and your team and Ms. Donaldson and all of you did during the pandemic. We certainly appreciate it, and I think you're one of our most valuable partners. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chandra.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Council on Aging.
Good morning.
Go ahead and state your name for us.
Josh Newby, CEO, Council on Aging of West Florida. I first want to thank the Commission for their longtime support of our agency. As you know, we provide home and community-based services for elder adults who are living at home. This includes Meals on Wheels, respite care, companionship, more intensive services like toileting and bathing for seniors who are no longer able to do that themselves. Like the woman who just spoke, we do use this money for match, a 1-to-9 match. So the $45,000 we're requesting today would pull down $405,000 in federal and state grants. It also saves the state money on the back end by not having to provide Medicaid match because these are folks who would otherwise be institutionalized in an assisted living facility or nursing home. You can care for a senior in an assisted living facility or nursing home for $90,000, $100,000 a year. We can do a lot of those same services at home for $8,000 or $9,000 a year. So I think it makes financial sense. Obviously, it makes moral sense because these are adults who have built this community that you now represent. And I appreciate your time today.
No, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Newby? I have a question for you about the Medicaid. You talked about the Medicaid reimbursement. That's one of our issues on our budget that's grown exponentially. Now it's kind of leveled off, and it actually looks like it's going down a little bit. So entities like Council on Aging, when you're able to keep folks in their home instead of going to an assisted, how does that, explain from your position how that saves us on the Medicaid side of it for the county?
Well, these are residents who would otherwise, Medicaid would have to pay for them to go into nursing home care or assisted living care. The state has to provide that match. So if we're able to keep them in the home, then you're completely offsetting that Medicaid match.
So you don't do any billing, you don't bill Medicaid?
Exactly, and we keep them in the home through other federal and state grants.
Now, if you had to bill Medicaid, of course, that would hit
Correct.
us, wouldn't it, Stefan? At one point, we were paying about $1 million a year, the county taxpayers in Medicaid.
Yeah.
It's jumped. I mean, geometrically, it's about $5 million a year now. So anything we can do to help organizations like yours
Yeah.
that are not going to bill Medicaid,
Right.
I'm going to be all in favor.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions for Josh?
Josh, congratulations. I mean, to take the hams after John Clark of about
Yeah.
45-plus years, congratulations on your new
Appreciate that,
position.
Commissioner May.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up, eComfort Incorporated. eComfort. Are they here today? Ah, there you are.
Good morning.
Pastor Tisdale, good morning. Welcome back.
Well, thank you,
Well,
sir.
how was your trip?
Great adventure.
I read all about it in the newspaper.
Well, we're here today again. Thank you guys for what you did for us on last year. But this year we are asking for $35,000, and the funding will be used to purchase food, operating supplies, and now we do Florida IDs and birth certificates for eligible individuals. And since 2007, we've been operating our food pantry every Tuesday and Thursdays from 6 to 12. We still have our feeding the homeless early in the mornings, and now we have a resource center that's open Monday through Thursdays from 8 to 12 that helps the people navigate the system of applying for benefits. They help them apply for jobs, SNAP benefits, or whatever benefits they need to apply for. So the need, we're in the Englewood community. The need is getting greater and greater and greater because of inflation, because of the economy. And we have increased because now more and more people know that we are there. So they're coming from all over to get food and make use of our services. Because we give out food every Tuesday and Thursdays, we are always running out, even though we partner with Feeding the Gulf Coast. We are always in need of food. So we are always searching and going to the store, trying to get food to help supplement what we get from Feeding the Gulf Coast. We do give out over 60,000 pounds of food a month. We really do. Wow. People line up at our place 5 a.m. in the mornings. 7 to 10 cars are already there. So, and it kind of like hurts us that sometimes we don't have the ample supply of food to give to the people that comes. What makes us different from everyone else is that we give with no question asked. What makes us different from everyone else, they don't have to come with an appointment. Now we also work with 211. When people call them and need additional food for the family, they can 211 refer them to us. We also started working with the Escambia County school system, that when the social workers run into families that need food, they call us and they can come to us and get what we have. So our services have been expanding. We are thankful for the volunteers that have come and have been really committed to helping us. So the funds we really need, and we thank you all for whatever you all can do for us.
Thank you, Pastor Tisdale. Any questions All right, thank you.
Congratulations on your climb to the mountains,
Yes.
Thank you.
Pastor
Thank you.
Tisdale, and your great work.
And Pastor Tisdale, for my part, whatever we end up giving you, if you find that you need more, contact my office, as I've done in the past. I'm happy to support what you do, because I support what you do.
Thank you,
From my
sir.
discretionary.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for being here.
Okay, appreciate everything you all can do for us.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Tisdale.
Next up, General Chappie James Flight Academy.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Stephen, on all of our proposals, particularly those who were funded in the past, I'm trying to find, did we get the measurables, the outcomes inside the package?
Yes,
And all of them?
So Commissioner, we have been getting those from the agencies. Those have been looked at. Generally, what I've seen in looking at those is folks are doing the things and the good work in our community that they said that they were going to do. So I haven't seen anything that was
But it's not in our,
particularly-
it's not in every one of the pack, is it in all the
It
packages?
is not in those packages, no, sir.
Okay.
It is just their applications and their backup.
Yeah, I just can't.
but don't they send quarterly updates, and you guys
Yes, sir.
request those?
Yes, sir, and we have looked at those. Thank you.
Can you
Yes.
forward that over to our office, please?
Yes, sir, we can do that.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Good morning. You're recognized. What is your name, sir?
Timothy Hooks.
Thank you for being here.
Ladies and gents, first of all, I want to thank you for your past support of Chappie James Flight Academy. It's a new day, it's a new year for our academy. We've been approved for a new facility that's going to give us much more space so we can accommodate the increased demand of kids that we have coming through the program. As you know, what we do, we're a STEM-based program, science, technology, education, and math, using aviation as a centralized career focus to help the kids. The only thing I can say about the program, it's growing, and the excitement in the community is growing. These funds will be used to help fund the purchase of new flight simulator equipment in our new facility. Primarily, we are getting a full motion simulator. So we're going to get the kids as close as we can possibly get them to actually flying an aircraft without actually leaving the ground, and give them everything that they need to hopefully help them make a decision to want to pursue an aviation career. Because right now, the airlines, they're begging for pilots, they're begging for mechanics, they're begging for air traffic controllers, you name it, the industry's wide open. So any help you can give us, we'd appreciate it.
And, obviously, this board's been supportive. I'm very supportive of what you're doing. But we also have a new entity in the community that has a lot of taxpayer money looking for things to do. And this is something that Stefan has pointed out. There's several entities that are requesting funds from the Board of County Commissioners that could also potentially tap the resources of the newly formed Escambia County Children's Trust. Have you spoken with them at all and interacted? Perhaps that's another revenue
That
stream?
I don't know, maybe Cliff Curtis, the president, or Ms. Paula, the treasurer, that would be in their field of expertise, so maybe they've spoken. I have not personally spoken, and I have not heard of the conversation through our board of director meetings.
They have a lot of money, too.
Okay.
They got a lot of money.
Okay.
All right. But of course, I'm supportive. Whatever the board decides, of course, they're going to have my
Thank you.
support.
We appreciate
Any
it.
questions? Commissioner May, you're recognized. And then Commissioner Bender.
Well, my question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Bender.
My question was Commissioner May, who sits on the board. As we have a number of
Yeah,
these that are
as I do.
highlighted, I was looking at for his direction or what he thinks that board would be interested in entertaining.
Well, we got to spend a lot of money on water awareness, but after we finish that, we probably have some left. So I was going to have this conversation, Mr. Chairman, at the end, because I'm certainly aware of staff's recommendation and, not opposed to it, but I'm certainly a proponent of making sure that we invest some dollars in our youth in human services. And so I wouldn't be opposed, to sending these organizations to Children's Trust Fund, and I sit on that board, and I think we're going to be very open. But I certainly would keep the dollars here, with stipulation. They would have to go and apply, and if the results are positive, well, then that's good for them. They wouldn't have to come back to us. If it was not positive, they could come back to us before the final
that sounds
vote.
reasonable.
So that's what I would be
So,
thinking.
I mean, is it a process that we would have in the next 60 days that they could apply and hear something back
Yeah,
before we
I
have
mean-
our actual budget hearings in
I
September?
think so, and that's a discussion, I'll certainly push at our next meeting, but I think we got a couple RFPs out on the ground now, and so I think that we would have those.
Okay, so I think any of
before
these
that-
organizations, I think.
And so, and in my thought, Robert, even if that didn't happen, There, my opinion, and for my vote, if we put if we have intended dollars to help youth, children, as we've designated, I mean, that certainly can go into reserves. There's way more need than resources than we have in our own community centers at this time. And so I would expect for the dollars to stay there, and if someone had to come throughout the year because they couldn't get that funding, then they could come back to seek that funding.
And that's what I said. I'd say we'll just leave them here and have them apply and see what happens when we come to September.
Lynn, what's your executive director's name? I apologize.
Tammy Greer is her
Tammy,
name. Yeah.
is she here? No, okay.
I don't
Well,
see her.
And I know, like you said, y'all have RFP and are probably, and I have watched a couple of the meetings. There's a good chance that y'all will be probably consistently or constantly taking applications.
Absolutely.
It just seems like there's going to be a lot of revenue coming in. There's a lot of need, but I think that there's going to be probably proposals floating in all the time, it seems like. So maybe we could ask Tammy and Stefan to interact a little bit, because we have these existing asks. Stefan's office can also, he can certainly forward the proposals as they were made to the county and give a little bit of historical data. These, a number of these are partners that we have worked with for a number of years, that we do have, we do have some tangible results. We have some of that data that you were referring to when I stepped out a second ago, but we have some of that data. Stefan's office, I think, can be a lot of help to Tammy, at least with regards to these, 4 or 5 or 6, or how many ever we might ask to make their applications over at the Children's Trust. That seems like a reasonable.
I think, Commissioner Berry, I think that's reasonable. If, as Stephen has indicated, we have the data and the outcomes, because for many of these organizations have been around for a while, so we've had measurables. So, we could send those over, Robert, with a blessing to the trust, and I think that comes with a positive endorsement, because it kind of sets, our mission and our agenda. And so I think that the board will be very open to supporting anything with children. And I agree with you, Commissioner, because that's why the tax is there, and that's why I asked for United Way. The duplication of dollars, at the end of the day, it's still taxpayer dollars.
Sure.
So I would be open to that. I just wouldn't be open today to having people who have applied leave here with no hope and no direction.
No, I agree with you. So we'll leave these as placeholders. We'll leave them there. And then if you're successful, then we'll have a discussion, a follow-on discussion.
Right, and they would have to apply. If someone just came, Stephen, and they didn't go apply at Children's Trust, well, obviously you didn't want the money, so, that would be fine.
That's right.
I could be supportive of eliminating them at that point, but I couldn't be supportive of eliminating them today.
I think that's perfect. Did you have anything else for us this
No,
morning?
sir, that's it.
I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Next up, G Beta, nope, that's not here. Gulf Coast Kids House.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
And certainly while Stacy's making her way up to advocate for her cause, I think it's, kind of noteworthy as we go forward. For some of the partners that are mandated, I don't really think that they even have to be on our sheet. I don't think it's necessary. We have, and it's not a lot of them. I don't know, 4 or 5, how many ever outside agencies there are. But if they're mandated, mandated partnerships, which are good partnerships. I think all the board is familiar with them, but I don't think it's really necessary to have budget have to include it on here, and to have them take their time to come. And I don't know that it's necessary.
That's fine with me, Stephen. So I know there are a number of them. Gulf Coast Kids House obviously is one of them. We're statutorily mandated to pay for your fees. So if you'd like to suggest, you want to.
I don't think Stefan would be opposed to having fewer.
Certainly, Commissioner. So Gulf Coast Kids House is one of those, and our 2 legal services are mandated in statute. So those are the ones that we would be discussing to take off this list.
Are there folks here from Legal Services of North Florida and Northwest Florida Legal Services? So what I'm hearing from my counterparts is we're certainly going to fund you. You're statutorily mandated, so you don't need to stay unless you want to, and you'll be good to go. And we can mark you off the list. Is that good? All right, so we're going to mark those two off the list. Stacy, you're
Mr.
here.
Chairman.
Welcome.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, Stacey. I mean, there is a part of the CBG money for Pensacola Human Relations that's mandated by a HUD requirement. So
Okay.
you should add them to that list.
All right. Any objection? No objection. We'll add them as well. Is there anyone here from that group? Yeah, you don't have to stay if you don't want to. Have a nice day. All right. Okay. Stacy, do you want to say anything? You want to say hi?
Just, we appreciate your support.
Absolutely.
We are seeing the egregiousness of physical abuse increase in our area. And so far, we've done 449 exams in Escambia County for physical abuse, and it's by far the highest for our 4-county district.
How does that compare to last year? Year to date?
It is an increase
It's an
in the number of exams
Significant?
we've given. Not significant. Sexual abuse has stayed about the same, but physical abuse is increasing.
Oh, man. Well, appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you for being
support.
here. Absolutely. Okay, next up.
Commissioners, if, just real quick,
Yes.
just on the two legal services agencies, so the 124,688 that is mandated in statute, they do split that, so
Yep.
just a point of clarification, we would maintain that split,
Yeah,
funding
maintain
split.
the split. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what we've been doing that for a number of years, so that's good. Okay.
And Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
just for clear clarification, I think, Human Relations, a part of their CDBG funds are mandated. The other funds are considered outside agency funds.
Yes.
So they do have a part that,
Yeah,
that we wouldn't have to fund, but yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I think that's safe. We've already told him he's off.
He's
the-
good? Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. And,
So-
and another thing, Jeff, I mean, I was reviewing the local asks to the legislators, and most of those, we probably had 2 asks going in, that I think it's due this week, but most of these agencies fit what other counties, outside agencies are doing and going directly to the state. So I think as a part of this process, we should be encouraging and educating our outside agency groups to petition for state funds like other counties are doing.
I think a lot of them do right now through the grant process.
Yeah, I mean, it's due today. I mean, I've gone, the House, all of our local support grants, 2022, I mean, that's,
Is it today? Is the deadline?
today or tomorrow is the deadline, but I mean, they have everything from economic development to workforce development to human services to, I mean, fire trucks, the whole 9 yards. I mean, so,
Yeah.
I mean, this is not the end all. I mean, if someone's not going for a state grant, I don't know necessarily why they would come for the local one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go for both. Very good. Okay, next up, Gulf Coast Veterans Advocacy Council. Do we have a representative there? Not seeing any. Health and Hope Clinic, I see Sarah Davies here. Yes.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, before,
Yes.
on the Gulf Coast Veterans Advocacy Council, I mean,
Yes.
we did fund them last year. They had a request for an increase. And Stefan, I presume they've done whatever, even though nobody's here, they've done whatever during the year they were supposed to do. I don't have an issue, penciling in
The
the
same
way we
amount.
have proposed, that 11 whatever. the number.
Okay, then
Yeah.
we'll leave that, 11,875.
Yeah, I mean, just because they're not here, as long as they've done the other things they've done,
Okay.
that's okay with me.
Seems reasonable.
Commissioner Berry, I would say I've attended 2 of their meetings. They do a good job, and I participated in the Veterans Parade that they had, and I'm sure the parade probably ate up all this money. And then their stand down that they do every year over at Salvation Army is a pretty big event, a good collaborative. So I would personally support that.
Yeah, I didn't want it to be unsaid that we were penciling in their money, so just.
Sure. No, absolutely. And just for everyone's benefit, this is our workshop. We deal with community partners. Yesterday, we dealt with departments. It's a workshop, so we don't necessarily have community citizen feedback, but we have 2 meetings, our 2 budget hearings, September 6th, September 20th, where we will have a public forum. Citizens will be encouraged to come and speak to us, give us their ideas, give us their thoughts, their feedback on these budgets. So we just don't want anyone that could be here from the public who wanted to speak to think that we're denying them that opportunity. It's just, this is a workshop, not a meeting. We're going to have 2 hearings in September where we can have input from the citizens. Okay, Sarah, you're
Sorry,
right.
Jeff.
Yes.
Real quick, I don't know if we can pull up the updated sheet maybe on the screen. That way, as the agencies come forward, they know what's being allocated already in the budget.
That's fine with
They could waive and support if they're okay with that, or if they want to make the case for a large amount that they've already, that they've asked for. But it looks like most of them are funded at last year's rates, so.
Yeah, and I believe if I'm not mistaken, Stefan, they've all been notified of the allocation. The allocation's what's on the far right column.
Right,
So if they want to ask for more,
right, but if they also just want to waive and support and,
oh, yeah, okay, well,
yeah.
so to everyone out there, if you want to come up and wave and support, good advice from Commissioner Bender. Sarah, you're recognized. You want to wave and support?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice day.
Sarah Davy, Health and Hope. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. All right. Next up, Pensacola Caring Hearts. Pensacola Caring Hearts, we've got you put down for the same amount that you had last year. Would you like to wave and support? Robert, I like your style over there.
Commissioner, just
Save
real
us some
quick,
time.
we skipped over Huts for Our Friends.
I'm sorry, Huts for Our Friends wanted $1 million, and I have no backup or anything. Is there someone here from Huts for Our Friends who want $1 million from this board?
I'm going to vote for it because they had the courage to ask for it.
I mean, that is courageous. That's
that's
more
him.
than the total amount we're giving to everyone else. There's no one here from that group. Sorry, we skipped over them, but they're not here. Okay. Pensacola Caring Hearts. New World Believers. Is there someone here? Okay, you gonna wave in support? We got you penciled in. You want to come? Okay, Rodney Jackson, come on down. You'll be recognized. Rodney Jones, sorry.
First, there is a Rodney Jackson here.
Rodney Jackson. Rodney Jones.
Oh,
I
he's
am
getting ready to
related to
speak.
some Jacksons, though. First of all, I want to thank you guys for the support that you have given us. We are a community enhancement program that deals predominantly with youth 13 to 21. We provide work-based learning programs for them. We provide behavioral modification for them throughout the week. Now, throughout your support times, it has gradually went down. They've taken somewhat a few thousand last year and year before, based on what we got from the first time that we asked. Given the increase in violence in our community, I would ask for an increase in that based on who we deal with, the particular target population that we deal with. We provide jobs, we provide work-based training, we provide single, individual, and group counseling, and provide an array of services through our partnerships, through Escambia County Health Department, Escambia County Sheriff's Department, Department of Juvenile Justice. And so we deal with a lot of those young people who may be on the cusp of getting in trouble or who may have already gotten in trouble. So with that understanding, I just would ask just for an increase in that. Again, I thank you for what you have done,
Yes,
and
sir.
I appreciate it because it is used to go to work for our young people. So if we could get a little increase.
Okay, so we've got 10,250. We've
Yeah.
got a request for 20. We'll take that under advisement.
All right.
Does anyone have anything for Mr. Jones?
Mr. Jones, thank you for the work that you're doing in the
Yes, sir.
community, and we certainly appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
You know, we'll continue to collaborate.
All right, that'll work.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Jeff, let me say, and you're good, Mr. Jones. I really don't have a problem with people asking for increases. I mean, we talked about that all day yesterday. I mean, gas has gone up since the last time. I mean, materials have gone up. I mean, I'd rather cut agencies, candidly, and not give them money than to give somebody just enough money to fail. And, that's why the outcomes and the measurements are so important to me. I'm not interested in funding every organization. I'm interested in funding organizations that are effective.
Yes.
But our human services, and Claire Long is here, they're doing a great job. For any organization that's dealing with seniors, dealing with youth, dealing with some of the things that we fundamentally do as a government, there has to be some linkage and partnership. I mean, because if not, then we're duplicating services, and we're not facilitating even capital investment, building investments that we've already had in place. So we don't need to increase, occupancy and rentals and those type of things if we already have those assets in place. What we do need to look for is collaboration, and that's why it's important for me to look at the goals, the outcomes, and how do we measure those goals and outcomes, and how they collaboratively working with we have a human service department.
Yep.
We have a summer youth employment program. We have an after-school program. And so we need those people to be working with those programs.
I agree with you 100%. Outstanding. Yes, Commissioner Underhill.
Thanks, Mr. John.
Okay, okay. All right, very good. Okay, all right, very good. Next up, James B. Washington, Education and Sports. James Benny Washington. Okay, I don't see him here. Keep going there. Next up, Pensacola's Promise Chain Reaction. Hey, Kristen, how are you? Looks like we've got you penciled in for 18,050. Does that work?
We did ask for a small increase because our program has grown and we have a
Yes,
lot
ma'am.
more teens. So I want to highlight just a couple of things. I'll be very brief that you probably are very aware of. We do impact human services, and it has come up a couple times about moving us into economic development because that is our bigger purpose. What we are focusing on right now is 43% of Escambia County has an AA degree or higher. However, in the future, 85 to 90% is going to require an AA degree or higher. The national statistic is only 50% of kids that start college actually graduate. Our UWF statistic of our Escambia County kids that start college at UWF, only 30% graduate.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Escambia County students that
Who go to the
UWF,
University of West Florida, only 30% that start actually
Is that
graduate.
within 4 years or ever?
6 years.
So even within 6 years, only 30%?
Within 6 years, only 30% graduate. And that's from
That's alarming. Wow.
I totally
Is
blanked
that
on the
Achieve
name.
Escambia?
Florida Department of
Where's that
Education.
data coming from? Florida Department of
That came
Education?
from, you know exactly, I totally just blanked.
DOE?
Kim,
Who?
the one that got the Children's Trust, was a big proponent on the Children's Trust passing. Why am I forgetting their name? Achieve Escambia.
Oh, Achieve
That came
Escambia.
from Achieve Escambia.
Kim McQueen.
Yes.
Okay.
She gave me that
No, Kim
statistic.
Krupka.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
Kim Krupka.
So that's data from Achieve. You know, Jeff, I mean, that's why I say, that if a part of however we do this funding should be a workshop with our board to look at the dashboard from the analysis to make sure this is, whatever we fund is in line
Right.
with the most critical needs in our community.
I mean, I knew there was a high attrition rate, but that to me is alarming because
Yeah, and it's shocking in national
30
statistics as well.
30%, only 30% graduate, so 70%.
Well, and I'll tell you the reason why I believe what happens with our Escambia County and UWF. These are students that can be more timid. UWF is a phenomenal school.
Yes, it is.
Amazing school. 50% is nationally, so this is.
Sure.
But a lot of times these kids might be more intimidated to go away. So you're getting kids that might be first-time college students. So it makes sense that when you're going to your local college, that would increase. I think if we went to UNF and Jack, we would see the same thing. Local kids that go to local college have a tendency to drop out a little bit more often. What we do to combat this is two things. We are service and leadership, but the service is to teach soft skills. They make projects for the nonprofits. What we care about is them building the soft skills, because that's what every college says. They're not socially and emotionally ready.
Right.
And so that's what we focus on. The second that is key is a resume learning plan. And there's a national study that's called Intentional Learning Plans that they've done in several school districts. So we have them, because we all know we don't hire anyone on a GPA.
Right.
We hire them on experience. It's very hard for 18-year-olds and 16-year-olds to realize how that college class is going to help them make more money.
Right.
In the resume learning plan that we start in high school and we follow all the way from college, that is what helps them stay in school. It shows them the bigger purpose, and it gets them to see what they're going to make. So last year, if you look, I know, Commissioner May, you looked, if you go to page 5, we went from 234 in 21 to 313 members. We increased our internships because we know that's huge, from 54 to 84 kids completing internships with us. And then our students were able to secure our highest level ever of $3.3 million in college scholarships. And so that's Escambia County citizens, parents not having to pay for college, which is also key as someone who put herself through school. When you're putting out that money and you can't see the purpose,
Right.
very easy to increase dropout rates. So this is why we've asked for $25,000. I don't know if we fit better into economic development, but we've made a huge push on not only four-year college, but two-year college and AA degrees, trade school degrees. And with being on Pensacola State College, this has helped us tremendously.
Well, and look, I'm a big supporter of your program. My daughter went through your program, graduated from it, so I'm sold.
Yeah.
But I would simply tell you that you're in the blue column, so whatever we give you from the board, I would strongly encourage you to also go get some money from Commissioner May and the Children's Trust, because that's right in the bailiwick of what they should be doing.
Yeah, and we have a meeting scheduled them as well, so we are
Fantastic.
looking at that. That is our goal. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Quick question, and thank you for your work. So where would we find the data? And if we're tracking the data that says that 30% of children who graduate from Escambia High Schools drop out of the University of West Florida? Where are we tracking the data for graduation and post-graduation of kids who leave Escambia County?
So I always go to Achieve. That's why I think Achieve's great, because as a small nonprofit, I don't have the time to go and dig all that data. But Achieve is where I go to get it, because they collect all that data.
And so
for us.
they follow them and track them post-graduation?
They do. And then it's also required by the state. I'm assuming you can get it by the state, because in order for colleges to get funding, they have to show how many of their students, when they graduate, are placed in a job or start grad school within 12 months of graduating.
So whether they go to college, whether they go to trade school, whether they go to JUCO or community college, we're tracking them when they leave high school. And
I don't know if they track for leaving for high school. That would be, again, I always pull from Achieve on those local statistics, but if you want to see the kids that actually graduate and if they get
well, that's what I'm
placed in
saying. Once
jobs,
they graduate,
I'm sorry, I was saying college.
No. So I mean, because that's an interesting fact that you brought to light, that we're tracking kids, and Jeff, that's good. I know you served on the school board. That we're tracking young people once they leave high school, and we have that data. That's okay.
Yeah, and you can also look, Lumen, just because I work with teens all the time, the dropout rates in senior year, and then what we just went through because of COVID and people doing online learning, the dropout rates senior year, and those again are Escambia County citizens that are literally dropping out of high school, are significant. And so you can look at those high school graduation rates, and now they're citizens without a diploma in our community trying to get jobs. And that's why what we focus on is really trying to make sure in giving those kids those extra encouragement with trade school and looking at those other options. We actually work with Ms. Gordon at Washington High School Curriculum, and she wants us, when we can get the funding, to do this in every single class, the resume learning plan, at junior year. And the big thing, and I met with Mr. Beck with Beck Property, and he was like, look, I have a new thing where every single kid can start working in air conditioning. We'll start them in high school at $22 an hour, but it's convincing that 18-year-old kid that you want to do it. That's the hard work, and that's what I think we do really well. There's tons of potential, but if not, what's their path if they don't have a high school diploma?
Right. I mean, well, I'm a big advocate of vocational training. I think our school system has missed the boat, because I know what my plumbers and electricians make. They work for me a ton of money. But when you talk about economic development, Jeff, and I would be willing to fund, 10 times $25,000 for this empirical data that shows me kids who are coming out of Escambia County schools, whether they're going to college, post-training, how we're correlating that with our, you said you want to go into economic development. Well, how many economic development jobs did we create, and did our kids go get those jobs, and where did they go, and where's that placement? I mean, I've not seen that type of empirical data to correlate the basis. So if I'm looking at the minority chamber and they say they're creating minority jobs, so if we're tracking kids coming out of high school, where were those jobs created, and did our kids from Escambia County get them? That's valuable information
Very, very
for funding, and I'm telling you, if you bring that forward, I'm willing to fund discretionary, whatever, if we're going to really have that data.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, bring that plan, and then we'll
Lumen,
fund it.
even better yet, George Stone is now letting any child that, at least I heard from this year, if you graduate and you go into their program, the first year of trade school is free. Second, Bright Futures, if you have 30 hours of service, no grade point average whatsoever, and you take CAPE classes, which is all offered through our school district, you get trade school or AA for free. Most kids don't know about it. These are the things that we're working on to bring attention. And it's not because our school district is bad. We all know the issues. There's so much going on. Guidance counselors is 1 to 400 kids. And then it's not just telling them, it's motivating them. I worked with 4 kids in trade school. We got them into the programs. 3 months into the class, they dropped it. It was hard.
Yeah, we know the analysis.
So that's where we can come in, and Chain Reaction's ready to do it. We're prepared. We have the programs. We don't have the funding.
Well, I want to get the funding. I don't like the narrative. I like the empirical data part of it, and saying, well, they're creating this program and any kid can come free. Well, really? I mean, well, how many kids really went? And how many kids really graduated? And how many kids really got a job? That's, to me, the stewardship of where we should be getting our dollars.
And that's how we track everything. So if you want to do that, we can make that happen.
Yeah, I like that. We should get together. I mean, we're not voting on a budget today, but if it's something that innovative, then I can just tell you, we can work that out. And I think you're right. It's a correlation. I think we have to correlate our economic development strategies with our actual educational attainment. I mean, how are we educating, how are we training, how are we placing? If not, we just got another budget narrative that we keep doing year after year after year, doing the same thing, expecting a different result.
Yeah, it's got to be data.
All right,
You got to show the numbers.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
So we will take your request. We'll take your request under advisement. Thank you.
Clara,
Thank you so
Clara, I would
much.
hope you would get with her on the human services side and the economic development side.
Okay, next up, we have Reentry Alliance Pensacola. There's a request for $200,000. Vinnie Wibbs is here. It doesn't look like there's any in the right-hand column, so welcome. You're recognized.
Good morning, Commissioners. Vinnie Wibbs, Executive Director of Reentry Alliance Pensacola. I find myself in an unenviable position. We're here with a request for a new program for a considerable amount of money. It is not mandated. It hasn't been funded in the past, and at the present time, the recommendation, I guess, the proposed recommendation is for $0. This is not the first time that we've come here. The program obviously is for the installation and initiation of a day reporting center that would address the people that are unable to make bonds that are presently in our jail facility. The cost of jail, I think, is probably around $25,000 per person.
Sure.
What we're asking is $200,000. Is about part of a roughly $340,000 budget. The idea is that we can, by using the services of the Day Reporting Center, we can keep these individuals from being housed in the jail. I believe, and our history would show, that you can take a program that would be a new program and make it work. I personally believe that with the Day Reporting Center, we could probably save the county enough money to fund most of those programs up there, because we can keep these people from being jailed. Our request, we know it's a new one, it's difficult, but I would say to you, suggest that if we keep doing things the way that we have been doing them, we're going to keep getting the same kind of results. And this is a chance for us to do something that's a little bit different. And we ask that maybe this is the time for the commission to consider funding something that is a little bit unique for this area and could provide a substantial benefit. Glad to answer any questions that you got.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Wibbs?
Yeah,
Robert?
I mean, I think I think we need to consider this, at least look into something that, I think we had money that we used to give to Pathways that was a similar, at least in the fact that it would get people out of our custody and our care. It may give us a more opportunity to help with our housing situation. I'd definitely like to have more conversations about it before September.
Okay. And we'll have opportunities. We'll have the 6th and the 20th. I'm a supporter. I've given you money from my
Thank you.
discretionary.
We appreciate that very much.
So you're up and running
We
with
are.
or without this money?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Commissioner May.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good seeing you, Mr. Wibbs.
Thank
As always, we shared the same address. I just lived on the west side, you lived on the east side. I was in the hood, and you were in the suburbs, but I would get your mail all the time, so it's all good.
I hope it's just the bills.
No, there were some Christmas cards. I knew that wasn't intended for me. I don't have any friends. Vinny, I obviously, Commissioner Robinson considered me the jail commissioner because I spent an awesome amount of time inside the jails. I believe in prevention programs and rehabilitation programs, and so it's important to me. I believe that we had a day reporting, as you know. Unfortunately, the state spent millions on relocation of a building because it didn't work in that neighborhood.
That's right.
So that was certainly a loss of taxpayer dollars. But I think, Robert, I could be supportive, not here on this allocation as community partners, but through our corrections department. Because what happens is we do have community control, we have probation, all that's fee-based. And it should be a collaboration with working with our corrections, and it becomes a fee-based organization that somewhat is almost an enterprise.
Yes.
And that's really what it is. I mean, if we pull the dollars on fees, fines, tickets, and all those things, there's an astronomical amount of money that comes in, and so people pay for that supervision. So I think that if we incorporated that together and putting together a performer that makes it pay for itself, it makes sense. And, if we got to support some capital outlay money through some LOST dollars or something, that's where you would find me. But you certainly would find me with that program. And I've talked about that program throughout our corrections department, for the last 4 or 5 years. I remember when Rick Dye and Al Stubblefield and you and Connie Bookman all came, many years ago. But but we would have to have that innovation. I don't think it's a standalone. I think it's a collaboration between our corrections department, our jail department, and what you're doing at REAP. I see it as a public-private partnership. That's what I can support. I couldn't support a standalone. I mean, because we just talked about tracking and data. What happens to them when they get out of prison? Do we know? What job placement are we putting the people in? I mean, how are we talking about the recidivism rate? I mean, there's an arm of case management that, quite frankly, we don't do as a county, or maybe we can't do, and that's what we have to have. In order to have any program, I mean, if we're going to go after state matches and federal matches, I mean, we got to begin to collect that data. So if you would work with our corrections department, I hate to keep putting Clara on the spot, but she knows how I feel about human services. If we could come up with a plan between our corrections and human services that models that, Vinny, I mean, I think that, it could be a deeper committee of the whole conversation.
I will work with them on that. And I thank you very much, all right?
Thank you, sir. All right, next up, Sisters Anointed to Lead Together. And they have asked for $5,000. Is there anyone here from Sister Anointed to Lead Together? Oh, hi. Good morning.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing this
Doing
morning?
great.
Good. My name is Centoria Spencer, and I am the founder, the chair of Sisters Anointed Lead Together. We're known as SALT. We are a 501c3. We are mentoring girls of the ages 12 to 18. Our purpose and what we do is that we teach about leadership principles. The reason that we teach about leadership, empowerment, advocacy, and discipline. The reason why we target the girls of 12 to 18 is because as we listen here, we're trying to teach them how to become productive members of society. We give them the skills as how to feel like we was talking earlier, the resumes, we teach them how we can become more supportive. What our issue is, and the reason why we're asking for money, which is the first time here, is because we are growing. Sisters Anointed started in 2016 with a few girls. However, now with Gulf Coast Kids House, we usually use their facility, but we have no longer nowhere to meet. And so we're trying to find ways to meet the need. Our need basically is with the young girls. We make sure that they learn how to do time management. We talk about and we teach them, we bring in people about mental health, because as we know, a lot of the kids today with COVID has changed a lot of mindset. It's a new normacy. So we're talking about how to deal with that situation. And we also teach them how to manage checkbooks. A lot of the girls do not have financial literacy. So I'm very proud to say of the young ladies we have had, they've been with me since 2016. We have 3 that have graduated. They have now learned how to do a checkbook. They learn how to not only not try to get financial aid, but how to get your education so the money comes to you. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're teaching, and we have 3 girls. I have 1 girl now who does not have to have no financial aid because of the skills we've been teaching, because a lot of them did not understand the concept as simple as a budget. So we're trying to get the kids, as we heard earlier, before they get out of high school, to start giving them room for our community where they can come back and be productive ladies of society. So that's why I'm here today, to represent the organization.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Commissioner May?
No, thank you. I know the work that you guys have done, and I'm going to continue to support you with discretionary as well. Mr. Chairman, I see a 0 proposed, but I would certainly, if she's doing 0 to 18, I thought it was 21, I certainly would move it over to the proposed budget, but send it to Children's Trust, and she would have to follow what the other youth programs are doing.
Yeah, I could support that. So yeah, let's do that. So we're going to put the 5,000 as a placeholder, and then we're also going to request that you seek the same amount of money from the Children's Trust as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
So Stefan, if you could make that change, I see 4 of us want that. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for what you do.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next up, Sisters of Hope Corporation. Good morning.
Good morning. How y'all doing today?
Doing great. How are you?
My name is Gladys Scott. I'm the founder of Sisters of Hope. We are here today to ask for an increase because we want to launch our new program with Pearson View, where we'll have 25 IT exams, and plus we will be able to prep and test in GED. Our program is growing, so we need bigger space. Anybody knowing when you're dealing with technology, it's going to cost. So we need IT service. We need an instructor to give the exams. For example, the exams that we want to bring to Escambia County It will be Realtor, Medicine Sports, it will be Adobe, it will be Microsoft, and we want to be able to, when they go out for jobs, most employees look for trained, certified employees. And we want to bring that down there to Escambia County. We want them to know when they leave Sisters of Hope, getting a high school equivalent and getting certified for them 25 IT exams, we want to know that they can be able to handle and be sustainable in living.
What age community members do you serve?
We serve from 16 to 100. If you want to get your high school equivalent, if you want to get certified in any area or exams, we are here to work with you. We have dedicated staff.
Excuse me, Scott, when you say exams, what do you mean by exams?
Eye exams, like say if you going to school for sports management, we will be the one to give you the exam. We the testing center. We will be able to bring you in a comfort environment where you can feel and you can pass your exam to get certified for sports management, nursing, IT
So this is not
service.
anything medical, this is just like an exam proctor is what you're doing?
Any exam that you go to school for, we will be able to give it and deliver it at Sisters of Hope.
Okay, well, thank you for being here today. It looks like we have an allotment there for you.
Ms. Scott, let me say, last fund distribution, your sister was here, so I mean, your thoughts and prayers are continued. I know that this is important to you and your sister, and so.
Yes,
and
yes,
so- and for her.
education is always important.
So, but let me ask a couple questions to you. So when you're doing these trainings, are you working with like the Gulf Coast Minority Chamber? Are you working with Florida West? Are you working with are you working with anyone? Because that's kind of the goal is training. So are you working with any of our other partners?
No, sir, we're not.
I would encourage you to do that, because I mean, if you're training someone in the medical field or IT or.
No, we not training, we giving the exams. We don't
Oh,
train.
after they get trained, then you
After
do.
they get trained, they come to us to take
So
their
who's doing the
exams.
training? I'm sorry.
Whatever field they go in, that's who do the training. We only give the exam test.
Okay.
So we don't have nothing to do with the training. We bring them in to test them. So now we're gonna start. We talk to Fortis. We Pensacola State College. We working with Project Connect. We working with Secret Place for girls. We working with Department of Juvenile Justice for youth. Our most important thing with youth, we work hand in hand on them, because we not only try to give them their high school equivalent, but we try to give them a trade or a skill that they can use and better our community.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Y'all have a blessing.
Yes, ma'am, you as well. Thank you so much. Okay, next up, Whistleblowers of America. Whistleblowers of America. This looks to be a new request, and good morning. You're recognized.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And thank you all for letting us come here today. We are new to Escambia County. Whistleblowers of America was incorporated in 2017. After I had my own experience, I was at the Pentagon, I made a disclosure, and my life changed drastically forever. In 2020, I won my case, and I took that money and I bought a property in District 1, and we opened our doors as the Workplace Promise Institute.
Was it a Quitam claim?
It was a retaliation claim for whistleblowing against the Defense Department for trying to misappropriate suicide prevention funds for the military. So, and I'm a former Army officer, and I also do a lot of work with veterans as well as employees who have experienced discrimination, harassment, retaliation, and bullying in the workplace, which means that they're going through this very hostile work environment situation. They're losing their jobs, they're being terminated. So as we've heard, there are a lot of programs that help people get jobs, but there's not a lot of programs that help people keep jobs or deal with these kinds of situations. Suicide is the 4th leading cause of death among working-aged adults, and the relationship to their socioeconomic status is often misunderstood. So we focus a lot on that trauma-informed perspective. Our program is peer support based, and we work with people to help them recover, remain resilient, and reinvent their lives. Sometimes it means finding a new career. I had one woman call it being professionally gang raped. She had to give up her career as an engineer that she went to school for, had worked for like 20 years, but when the retaliation, the termination, she couldn't go back to the job she once had, she got her license to become a real estate agent. So these life-changing, life-altering events are very traumatic because of all the things that go into them. We do have people who come to us from all over the world, actually, because there isn't another program quite like ours. We're not attorneys. We don't adjudicate cases. We help you figure out what you need to do to survive, to cope. I started Whistleblowers of America as a peer support program when I was speaking to a woman who was a law enforcement officer, was going through an issue with her agency, and she admitted that she had a gun on her table and was contemplating suicide. And that's when I called an attorney and I said, you know, we really need to do this. We need to save these lives. So we don't charge anything for the peer support. We want to keep it as open and as accessible as possible.
Okay.
We want to train more people to be advocates in this space, which is why we started the Workplace Promise Institute. We want to bring an annual event to Pensacola every year. We want to make this the home of the Workplace Promise Institute, and that's why we're asking for the $15,000 that we put in a request for, so we can help work with more employees and to help more transitioning veterans. I am the only female certified by the VBA. I passed their exam, you should be proud of me, to be that. And so now there's only 2 of us for all of VA listed in Escambia County, and I'm the other one now.
Well, we appreciate you being here, appreciate your service, what you do. Whatever the board decides, I just want you to know that from my part, we each have some discretionary funds. If it doesn't go your way, I'd be willing to support with a small donation, because I think it's important to protect people that blow the whistle.
Yes,
Because a lot of times, if there's no protection for them, they won't come out with the true story of what's happening. And then the bad behavior continues. So, but we appreciate you being here, appreciate what you do, and depending upon which way this goes, if there's no money from the board, I'm certainly going to be willing to give you some for my discretionary.
Okay, I thank you. I appreciate all
Yes,
of this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you and Carolyn for spending time with me over at Brownsville. I certainly appreciate it, and hopefully you guys did get some discretionary money from us, I believe. Audrey, are you saying yes or no? Yeah, if you have not gotten it, then you will get it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, you too. Wildlife Sanctuary, we greatly appreciate what you do. You waving in support? Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am. Keep up the great work. All right. Human Relations Commission, Commissioner May, we'll just skip over them because we understand that that's something we need to do. Okay, first 3 cents. Visit Pensacola. Visit Pensacola. I thought I saw. Yep, there we go. Darren Schaefer, you're recognized.
Yes, good morning. Visit Pensacola on behalf of the unified budget, which also includes Pensacola Sports and ACE, Arts, Culture, and Entertainment. We submitted a budget request that was very similar to last year at $10.4 million. I'm here to say that our tourism industry here in Escambia County is doing very, very well. Last year, 2021 was a record year. Even compared to 2019, we saw significant growth, and through this current fiscal year, we're improving on that. So while our goal revenue for this year was $15.75 million, the projections are going to be $21 to $22 million, which would be the first time we have ever cracked that level. And last year, our actual revenue was 17.7, so even building on our record year last year, we expect TDT collections to be up 19 to 24%. We feel that the investment in the unified budget is one of the best ways for the county to continue to grow our tourism industry throughout the year. That's truly our focus, is to drive visitation during our slower months, and we see that happening through sports events and special events and activities, and we're seeing an increase in both snowbirds and remote workers from December through March. We are excited about the number of jobs that the tourism industry supports in Escambia County, at 22,000 jobs in 2021, and we see the challenge for us continues because success usually breeds success, and we're seeing additional hotel development coming into the market. We see about 1,000 rooms that are being planned right now, whether it's out at the beach, downtown, or in the northern parts of the county. We also see our vacation rentals listings have grown by 1,000 listings in the last year. So with more inventory comes more need from the marketing efforts to help support those businesses.
Well, Darren, I appreciate the hard work. We all see the benefits. Go to the beach and you can see it for yourself. I think we see the amount requested is what you see in the right column. So without any lights on, I think you're good to go.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions? Thank you, sir. Next up.
And PSA is included in this, correct, Dan?
Yes, this is the unified budget.
Unified
So
budget.
it's Pensacola Sports and ACE.
Okay.
African American Heritage Society.
Thank you, Darren.
Anyone here from the African American Heritage Society?
Well, not a lot of people, but maybe.
We've got an amount listed, so we'll just assume that they're waving in support. Next up, Five Flags Sertoma. My understanding here, okay, Todd Thompson, why don't you come up? Todd's going to be recognized. He's the CEO of the Greater Pensacola Chamber. They're taking over the fireworks show. Them and I think the PYP?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yes, Sertoma came to us about a month ago and said, we're not able to do this any longer. We'd love to find some community organizations to pick this up. So in collaboration with Pensacola Young Professionals, the Chamber has agreed to do this. You can see there's a higher amount than last year. Last year was $75,000. We're asking $96,000 this year. That's based on three things. One, the cost of fireworks has gone up. Two, Sertoma National was able to pick up the insurance, so that's going to be something, that's a cost that we're going to have to pick up moving forward. And three, the barge, the last few years has been provided by Skanska, and since they hopefully will be up and gone next year, that's going to be a new cost that we're going to have to incorporate as well. So we're asking for $96,000 and appreciate y'all's support.
All right, thank you, Todd. Any questions for Todd?
No, thank you, Todd. I certainly appreciate it. Mr. Chairman, I will say, and I'll be supportive, I'm a great American.
Yes, you are.
So I'm going to be, but the city of Pensacola has spent $50,000 on.
Matter of perspective, buddy.
Well,
Matter of perspective.
depends on who's writing the editorial. You're probably right.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't always work too well for me. But the city spent $50,000 on Juneteenth. I am going to challenge the African American Heritage Society or the Gulf Coast Minority Chamber for the county to be doing events such as a firework for Juneteenth. So we will be coming to seek funding. They don't have it ready to present, but we're going to do similar to what we're doing here in fireworks.
Yeah, and of course, I'll be very supportive. But
And Mr. Chairman, I don't mind sliding over the 96,000.
all right, so 96, let's put a placeholder in because there's 3 votes for that. Robert, you cool with that?
Yeah.
There's 4 votes.
I would say that I think maybe talk to the TDC as well, just saying this does come from them.
Well, I will when I'm at their next meeting.
Yeah.
I'll bring it up with the chairman.
And I think Cheryl from African Heritage Society is now in the building.
All right, sounds good. All right, you're good to go.
Thank you for your support.
Yeah, no, thank you. All right, next up, General Chappie James Museum. Now, they didn't.
When you're talking to the TDC, I mean, same thing. Could you talk to them about Juneteenth as well, Jeff?
I certainly will.
I
And the
appreciate
chairman's
it.
right here, so he's hearing it.
Who's the chairman?
David Bear.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. That's fine. We'll probably sell a lot of beer, so that'd be cool.
Okay. So General Chappie James Museum, Stefan, they didn't request anything?
So, correct, yes. Just as a note to the board, General Chappie James Museum and Naval Aviation Museum basically those are funding placeholders. Certainly there have been some challenges, certainly with the museum over on base, and a lot of those programs have kind of been put on pause due to that. So just a note to the board, we can keep that placeholder or we can take it out.
Well, I mean, did they not request the money?
No, sir.
They haven't requested. So Commissioner May.
No, I'm sorry. I think that was the at the foot of the bridge. That was for the memorial.
Oh, for the statue.
For the statue.
Okay.
I think that's what that 100,000 was last year. I don't think it's museum.
It says museum. I think it's for the house.
No. He's right. That was for DOSA asking for $100,000. I believe.
That was for the statue. I think that's
So-
probably why it didn't come back again for the second, for this year.
So we need to zero that out then, right?
I think we zero that out.
That one
I'm
gets
going to
zeroed.
look for,
No.
did
Well,
the
no.
TDC discuss it or?
No. No, hold. We have the Chappie James Museum, and then we have the Flight Academy, correct? They're two different 501c3s.
But I don't know if we gave any from the museum, from the TDC last year. It was for the statue.
But I don't think we gave them anything, did we?
Well, we said that we would be the last funding. They needed to get everything else, and then we.
That's right.
Well,
That's right.
And so I think that's where that 100,000.
So it's a placeholder, and after they raise the private money for the statue,
Yeah.
then we come in, okay?
And I'm all with that, but for the Chappie James Museum and the Flight Academy, things that they're doing with children in tourism there, I'm going to be supportive of what they're doing. I don't mind on the Flight Academy that they go to the Children's Trust because they're doing the aviation training for the children.
Well, I just want to understand, so is there 3 entities or 2? Because so we've got the Flight Academy, which we're going to fund, and then is there a separate museum and then a separate statue fund?
It is.
So there's
But
3
obviously,
funds.
they didn't apply then. This year, they didn't apply.
I'm confused.
Well, that's on them. Yeah, the only one that applied was the Flight Academy. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, sir. This is just a funding placeholder.
All right. So typically, the museum, you got 3 different things. You got the statue and what Chris Joseph is leading.
Is
Then-
that this $100,000?
I assume. I mean, we can look at the application.
I think that's what was discussed last year. I don't know.
No. I know the museum was discussed last year because I met with them. They had representatives from the Flight Academy and the museum here last year.
Well, who's here from the Chappie James Museum? Who's here in the audience from the Chappie James Museum? Okay, I don't see.
Well, you know what? Drop it, Jeff. It's, they're not here. They're just not here.
No, but I just want to make sure I'm not dropping the wrong thing.
Stefan, what's
Commissioner, I have the note pulled up there. So basically, there are some additional funding commitments that I believe the board recommended last year. So that's
Okay, so this
that's
is the statute.
why we're holding the funding.
What's the note for 22 adopted say?
Same thing.
There is a no contract.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the statute. This was.
Yeah, it is a statute.
Okay.
So all we're doing, we're just holding that $100,000. We
Yeah.
put a placeholder in 2022, and we're going to put another placeholder in.
And when they raise the money, then we.
And
come
when
in.
they raise the
Okay.
money, then we'll give it to them.
Fair enough. All right, very good. Next up, National Naval Aviation Museum, zeros all the way across. Marketing. We're not going to give nothing there. Okay. So National Aviation Museum operating, $100,000. They haven't made an ask, but we've got a $100,000 placeholder. So what does the board want to do with that?
I mean, if we were consistent, they hadn't made an ask. We hadn't given anybody else that hadn't made an ask. But I mean, that's important to you. That's fine.
Well,
I know that to me, there's
support
problems in access to the base, and I know some of y'all are working on that. So I don't know what it does for our tourism numbers. But if I would ask Darren, I don't know. But I mean, if they didn't ask for the money,
I think
all I would just say, let's be consistent. If other people who didn't ask, if they come back later, then I'm going to have to be supportive of.
I think the skipper's put a plan out. He's got 2 waiver requests out right now. One would be to bus folks, have them vetted off the base, and then.
Well, Jeff, let me ask you one question before you talk. Did they put in an application?
Commissioner, just as a note to the board, they did not apply for funds, and the board has approved funding previously that has not been expended because
Okay.
of the activities on the base.
So they have money sitting somewhere, and they
Right.
haven't. Okay.
So, and it may be good, Jeff. I mean, I'm
Leave it
not
as a
going.
placeholder?
I'm not going down the hill, but they didn't apply. I mean, there are other people, organizations that didn't apply who said that they wanted to apply. They applied late. I mean, I've had multiple phone calls this week about people that didn't apply.
I'm fine leaving a placeholder. Darren, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I know that in particular this year that the Naval Aviation Museum and the Foundation have developed an activation that can actually go on the road called the Blue Angel Cockpit Experience.
Okay.
If you were to go down to the flight line on the Navy base to see the practices, the trailer is actually there. It's designed to give you a cockpit experience, and they're making that investment. In fact, we're working with them to take that trailer up to Chicago for the Chicago Air and Water Show. It'll be the first unveiling, but they've made a major investment, and then that's going to travel on a regular basis, and they'll be promoting Blue Angels at the Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola. So I think their intention was that money to be used towards that, an actual marketing investment that'll have years of return value.
Well, thank you for that.
Thanks,
And-
Darren. And Jeff, in full transparency, and I'm fine, but I'm gonna tell you, the Chappie James Museum didn't put in an application, and I'm a big supporter of it, but they didn't put in an application, so they weren't gonna get funded. That's why I said move on. If we fund somebody that didn't put in an application, we're gonna have to consider other people that didn't put in an
Yeah, no,
application.
I don't
And that's
think-
all I was just, if we set that precedent, I'm good, but we're gonna have to live with it.
But I mean, again, I think it's mislabeled here. I don't think this is the Chappie James Museum.
It's the statue fund.
I don't care what I'm saying.
I know. Let me finish. But
I'll let you
on the
finish.
other hand, we had a longstanding partnership with the Naval Museum that we had a contract, MOU for a while that did it. But again, this is also TDT funds.
Yeah, sure. So I think we'll do.
No, hold on, Jeff. I'm going to respond back. I hear everything you're saying. TDC's funds still ultimately we're responsible for them. I don't disagree with anything you're saying. What I'm saying is I know that the museum had intentions on putting in an application. They didn't put in an application, so I was supportive of them not getting funding this year. They did not put in an application, as he just said. I'm fine with it if that's the precedent that we're going to set. That's all I'm saying. So, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. That's for me. So, there are other organizations on here who say, man, I wish I would have put in an application. I didn't. Well, sorry, man, I really love what y'all are doing. Jeff, me, will give you some discretionary. I just want to be consistent. That's all, Robert.
And I think, Lumen, I hear what you're saying, and I'm good. We're going to be consistent. They're not going to get anything. It's going to sit there as a placeholder. I think that's the reasonable thing to do. So it'll sit there as a placeholder. Okay, does that work for you, Stefan?
Yes, sir, we have a
Okay.
placeholder.
Leave it there as a placeholder. Okay, I've been told the African American Heritage Society has just arrived. So, yes, ma'am, please come forward. We'll double back without objection. We'll go back to you. This is coming out of the 4th Cent. Welcome, good morning.
Good morning. So nice to be here before you in person. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present. For quite a while, I want to also thank your technology team because for quite a while they arranged for me to be present virtually, and it was of significant help. And so hopefully the numbers won't continue to rise with COVID and we won't be back virtual, all of us, in the future. But at any rate, I did request, on behalf of our organization, a 20% increase. Cultural tourism is up nationwide. In fact, there are statistics that show cultural tourism is up throughout internationally as well. And as a result of that, we have more tourists than ever. We have more expectations than we have had in the past. We have other things that we sort of had slowed down during the pandemic that we now need to increase, such as staffing.
Yes, ma'am.
And in order to accommodate all of these demands that are the direct result of cultural tourism and to continue to drive and support the economy of Escambia County, Santa Rosa County, and the surrounding region, we feel that the 20% increase is justified.
I have no issue with it. Any objection to increasing her to 10,000, up to 60 out of TDT money? If there's not any,
Jeff, my only thing is I didn't watch y'all's meeting, so I don't know what was discussed in your board meeting. So
well,
that's all
Well, I think we drive the train on this because we're having our meeting now, and then I can bring it back to our board. But I think a $10,000 increase for the African American Heritage Society is reasonable given the circumstances, and I do agree with cultural tourism. It's a big deal, and we hear all about it.
And Jeff, I don't disagree. I've been very supportive of them
So,
and
Stefan,
the
I
efforts they
would
do.
just say,
So I'm just trying to be respectful of the TDC board.
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, they can make an alternative recommendation if they like. It's 10 grand. Their budget's doing pretty well at the moment. So without objection, we'll change that to 60. I don't think there's going to be any objection. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for what you're doing. All right, next up, Visit Pensacola, 4th Cent. We've already had him. West Florida Historic Preservation Board, Rob Overton. Thank you for being here, for your patience, sitting through all of this. Appreciate what you do. Rob, you're recognized.
Thank you, Robert. As you know, Robert Overton, University of West Florida Historic Trust. We are asking for a $25,000 increase this year. We have been at the same level for a number of years. A portion of the funding that we get goes towards some cemeteries that was at the request of this board.
Yes, sir.
That they fall under us. All the reasons that both African American Heritage Society mentioned and Darren mentioned, costs have gone up. Our tourism has grown. At present, we are Our visitors are 180% higher than they were the same time last year, so we are bringing more people in to visit the museums downtown, and so that's why we're respectfully asking for an increase, because we are contributing to that pot to grow the amount.
All right. Anything from the board for Rob's request? He's requesting an increase? Okay, we'll take that under advisement.
Thank you.
And Darren, I didn't mean to skip over you, but it looks like you've waived in support because you're getting exactly what you've requested on your 4th Cent projects, right? So we're going to keep this moving forward. All right, very good. 5th Cent, Visit Pensacola. Do you want to come on down? You didn't request anything though, so. Because that's.
Right, so I was up here before, we talked about our total request, and we actually didn't ask anything of the 5th Cent because we're.
The deal that we made.
Well, we understand the goals of the Board of County Commissioners to take that 5th Cent, put it aside for future tourism facility development, so.
Okay, that's right. Thank you, Darren. Okay, next up, Local Option Sales Tax Fund, Center for Independent Living, Carolyn Growie, you're here, and you'll be recognized. You've asked for 60, we've authorized 30.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, and thank you for all that you do and that all of my fellow nonprofits and community does to try to expand the access to community for all of our citizens. We have asked for 60. This is our 3rd year in a row of trying to get this to be a fully funded opportunity for the programming at the center. Youth in Transition for people with disabilities is an unfunded mandate.
Yep.
And when it's given the $30,000 that it is, it doesn't allow us to have both a program and a full-time team member to be dedicated to it.
What's your total budget, Carolyn?
Our total fiscal budget for the entire agency is just over $580,000.
Okay, gotcha.
So, and we have funds that we receive that are both federal and state dollars.
Yes, ma'am.
As well as some nonprofit, some private donor type dollars. The youth in transition piece is federally mandated for every center for independent living to provide youth services for persons with disabilities. And that piece for employment is one of the pieces that we try to partner with our peers on. We certainly participate in activities with the chamber. We let the minority chamber know that we're here. We, just as one of the other programs that was up a few minutes ago, the SALT program, I just spoke to her today. I had not met her before. So we try to jointly find and offer the services together. For persons with disabilities, a lot of times what happens is those also end up being some of our folks who end up in prison, unfortunately, because they don't get the services that they needed because we don't know, meaning that the community hasn't acknowledged that they have a disability, and then they go through services in schools and they don't finish. That could be also part of the other part of the 60 or 80% of the people who aren't graduating piece as well, if they aren't identifying themselves with having the disability and then attending to that disability. What we find is for the folks who do come and utilize the service, as we had a culinary program that we had this summer, we had 6 people registered. When one person found out it was about the culinary area, she decided that was not an area for her, but for all 5 who participated the full 2 weeks, they all received a Safe Serve certification when they were done with it. They then have to make their own choice if they're going to continue in employment in the food industry, but they all completed that. And what happens for individuals with disabilities is each one of those individuals that participated has different disabilities. And so sometimes when they're doing an exam, just as was being shared from the other program, individuals need different kinds of supports in order to complete those exams. So it may not be that they do something in 1 hour that somebody else did in 1 hour.
Okay.
So anyway, that's part of the piece of where we keep trying to expand that.
And I appreciate the work that you do, as you know, and I strongly support you. I want to hear at this point from my counterparts. Commissioner Berry, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, it sounds reasonable as well for Carolyn to seek some funds from Children's Trust for the youth in transition.
Yeah.
And, where I think the Children's Trust could, ideally supplant board funding in the majority of these instances. If Carolyn is successful at the Children's Trust, I would still be comfortable if she can, work $30,000 out of that board. I would still be, I would be comfortable continuing to fund ours rather than supplanting
Me
our
too.
funding.
Yeah.
But not necessarily increasing our line in our proposed column, but saying, you know, not just, are we asking you to go to Children's Trust? If you go to Children's Trust, you can still, you know, still secure this, but we do want you to go and ask.
And I think that's reasonable. There's your ticket to 60. You got to go
Right,
sell it.
and I think that's reasonable with what you're asking. What we've seen so far, and we will definitely look at it, the RFP further, is that we were of the understanding it was for younger populations than for those transitioning to the workforce, but we will definitely go ahead and look at that to see if there's something that we can apply for.
All right. Thank you,
We
Caroline.
greatly appreciate everything that you do.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Carolyn, thank you so much, and I'll continue to support you with my discretionary at your event with Mr. Attorney, State's Attorney Longmire, in the event that you do. Great event, so we certainly want to continue to support.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner May. We appreciate that, and we can appreciate
you.
that from each of you and the ways that you have been able to support us. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Thank you for your work, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up, we've got Escambia County School Readiness Coalition. Bruce Watson. Good morning. Welcome. You know, as you make your way up to the podium, I think this is another, Stefan, correct me if I'm wrong, this is another great opportunity
Absolutely.
for us to find
Yes.
funds from the Children's Trust. I mean, they have,
I would beg to differ because of the sourcing and the type of money being used as match against the state.
okay.
It's not, at this point in time, necessarily appropriate for the trust to be approached to do this kind of stuff.
Well, I think we're going to have some legal determination of that. It certainly seems like it would be,
Yeah, why
to
wouldn't
me
it
as a
be?
layperson. I'm not an attorney. I don't know that you are, but
Yeah.
I think we need some legal determination. It seems like a slam dunk to the Children's Trust,
Seems like
to
a
me.
total slam dunk. Remember, a number of years ago, you got general fund money, and then we were able to find a home for you in the local option sales tax. But now that we've got a $10 million new tax on citizens for simply for the children, you know, school readiness is right in the bailiwick. So I think, Allison, I would ask for you to weigh in on this. Mr. Watson doesn't believe that we could utilize the Children's Trust for this.
I certainly would assume that he could. I have not looked into it, and I certainly will.
Have you spoken to them or interacted with them at all?
Actually, we have discussed it, and this is really, as the reason we moved it in the first place is economic development.
Yes, sir.
Because we're serving a classification of children that the state otherwise says if you don't have match money to make, to provide to them.
How old, though? I mean, these are young.
These are still children 0 to 12.
Yes,
But
but
their parents are earning above 150% of federal poverty, which would otherwise disqualify them from our regular program.
Okay.
The state set aside match money that says if you can get your local county government or other agencies, like, if we did have independent funding from, say, somebody who just wanted to make a charitable donation,
Sure.
then obviously it could be used towards that.
Well,
But what it does is allow us to serve children in that 150 to 200 range that otherwise would not be served.
I don't think the Children's Trust, correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner May, but I supported the Children's Trust because they support all children. I don't think they have some litmus test, right? Am I wrong on that?
I think you're absolutely right. I don't.
All
It's
children.
not up for
not
them to
about poverty.
decide. I mean, it's what's in the statute, what's in the ordinance, and if it's permitted in the ordinance, Bruce, you're going to have my support. I mean, you know what?
I'll get with
Look,
Mr.
we're going to spend money on things. Quite frankly, Bruce, I'll be honest. I didn't mean to cut you off. That's the collateral material that they utilize are the very children that you're referring to. They didn't refer to a swimming billboard or some of the other things that we're doing. They referred to poor inner city black kids that they had on the collateral material.
And
I
all
can
of
just
our
tell you.
discussion so far is to how to identify and serve children that are not otherwise covered by the state and federal
Right.
funding. These children are if you raise the local match to do so.
Right.
And otherwise, we would lose that opportunity to serve.
But what I'm saying is, what precedent, a statute, that are they saying, Bruce, that you can't apply for funds? I mean, quite frankly, you're ready, set, go. You're shovel ready.
Right.
And that's the problem why we put out some of these other grants, is because they said they didn't have anything that was shovel ready. I think your program is ideal. And I mean, I'll go with you to carry the pail of water to try to get that funding because you're ready to go. I mean, and these are the very kids that we put on the collateral material to advertise this grant, the very at-risk inner city black and brown children that you're representing. And so I'm going to be very supportive of going to the Children's Trust. I mean, I don't know how many you have to count to win, but you can count on my vote.
If it could be determined and that can be a source of funding for this, by all
Yeah, I mean, I
means,
just want legal. I mean, I don't care about the politics of it, Allison. I want to know, is it legal, is it not legal?
I
mean, you
can't
know,
fathom why it wouldn't be, but I'm putting in an email to council for the Children's Trust as
it's
we
about a
speak.
bigger net.
I mean,
I think it's a slam dunk, and Bruce, you're getting feedback from your funding board as to direction. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you for being here.
But on the
Outs-
upside, you did serve 175 children, which allowed almost $6 million of income to be generated by their families.
Thank you for that.
That's just the population you serve.
No, I appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up, Gulf Coast Minority Chamber of Commerce. Brian Wire, I see you back there, waving in support. I like your style. Very good. Junior Achievement, I spoke with Ildi Hassman. She's not making a request this year. PEDC, Scott Luth. He's waving in support? Right on, I like it. We like it, very good. Okay, Town of Century Economic Development Initiative, $0.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
That is as much my request as the Town of Century's. And just to, 45-second recollection of what we're doing here, we're setting aside a small amount of money for, if we have an opportunity up there for, for a new employer or, a growth expansion of a business that's in the town limits, something, if it's running fiber, running fiber to a business that would go into, a vacant building in their industrial park, or if it's three-phase power to something. I mean, I just want some funds that are set aside specifically for the town limits, for a project within the town limits. And if such project arises, which it hasn't the last couple of years, but if it does, then and I'd come back to the board and say, hey, now I've got something I can use some of this on. So it is really my request, not necessarily the town's, but of course, if we do get a possible project, then there'll be, I'll bring it back to the board and we'll work out the funding agreements with the town.
No issue for me, Stephen. I think it's a smart idea. Any other discussion on that? Okay, so that'll stay just like that. Okay, next up, we have a new request from the Studer Community Institute, the Spring Entrepreneurial Hub. Is there folks from, Rachel Gillette, welcome. You're recognized.
Good morning. Thank you. Rachel Gillette, President of Studer Community Institute. Making this new request this year, $125,000. This is to support the Spring Entrepreneur Hub, which is the front door to entrepreneurship in Escambia County. We serve entrepreneurs and businesses under our mission of improving the quality of life for all people in the diverse communities that we serve. We have a focus on small businesses, and more recently, because of a needs analysis, minority businesses. So it arose through a collaborative study. You've talked about the need for collaboration with other agencies and no duplication of services, in collaboration with various different organizations, Florida West, Minority Chamber, SBDC, Gulf Power at the time. UWF, PSC, both chambers, we were able to recognize that our minority businesses, some things that we knew was happening, but from the study that minority businesses weren't being served as well as other businesses. So we have moved into that space in particular. We hired Rodney Jackson as our Director of Business Engagement, because from the study, what we knew was that we had to reach those businesses where they were, and not just hope that they would come to us, because they weren't. And what we have been able to do is so far serve 132 businesses. Of those, 54 are minority businesses, 56 are women-owned businesses. So minority businesses that we're currently serving is 40% of the total businesses that we serve. Of those businesses that we've served in 2021, from the metrics that we have been studying, we have been able to create over 74 jobs, and over 100% increase in revenue in those businesses that we've been serving. We also know, and this is why we're asking for this funding, is because that with funding, we could serve more businesses. There's a gap, there's a need. And we had 194 businesses apply over the past 2 years to one of the services that we provide, which is our venture mentoring service out of MIT, a proven program, again, that was brought here in collaboration with Florida West, with the chambers, with various others. businesses who initially paid for us to be able to bring that program here. That funding has ended, but we have continued it through the spring. Of those 194 that applied, we've been able to serve 23. And of the 194, 81 were minority-owned businesses. So that is what we need this funding for, to be able to have a greater reach in all areas of the county.
Okay.
We're going out to where these businesses serve. We want to go to the north end of the county specifically. We know there's a need there for job growth and economic development, and we know that there is a need particularly for minority businesses to have help. So that is what we want to do. There is, again, a specific need for access to capital for minority businesses. We've found that, and that is the specific focus of Rodney. That's his area of expertise. I have tons more data if you need it, but I hope that I've supplied some data that will satisfy you for the ask that we're making this year to support the program of the spring through the Studer Community Institute.
Well, and I appreciate your time being here, and I appreciate the time that you all took with me on the phone, and the additional data that you brought I think is helpful. One of the questions that I think we talked about a little bit is we fund Florida West. That's our economic development arm, and they have CoLab, which is an incubator for small businesses. So one of the things that we talk about up here is, we want to support entrepreneurs, we want to support startup businesses, but we don't want to pay to duplicate services. So what are you doing differently that Scott Luth and the folks over at CoLab aren't already doing that we're helping to fund?
Yeah, and 100% we agree with you. That's one of the big tenets that we have at the Institute overall, regardless of whether we're in children's services and our early brain development, or whether we're in economic development and job growth. We do not want to duplicate services. So we work very closely. We have a great relationship with Scott and Florida West to make sure that we're not doing that. Okay. CoLab is very specifically focused on tech businesses. They bring tech businesses into a space. They give them a reduced rent, I believe, for the first couple of years. There's some business coaching. I believe they're currently serving 10 businesses, but I'll be stand corrected at the moment. So they're able to serve 10 businesses in the tech space specifically. We're not in that space. And although we have a co-working space, that's really not the focus of what we're doing. The focus of what we're doing is mentoring and coaching. And they're different businesses than anybody else is serving. They're not being reached and wouldn't be reached were it for the spring. Okay. And like I said, this has been goes back to 2015 when a very large group got together to map the entrepreneurial ecosystem in this community to try and help us be more entrepreneurial friendly for businesses to be able to start and grow here. And as a result of that, we were able to map that entrepreneurial ecosystem. We hold the asset map at Studer Community Institute, and we have that data and we update it regularly. We have pathways for businesses to be able to work through, and specifically a triage process, again, which is this funding will go towards, because what we do is a business can come to us as the front door, phone us up, get on our website, walk through the front door literally, and ask for help. What we want to do is to be able to provide them with mentorship and help. We do that through the staff that we have, and also through expert mentors. We have 36 expert mentors who are volunteers in this community, and we can refer them to them. But what we also say is, well, let's refer you to the SBDC,
right,
because they do things that we don't do. Right. Let's refer you over to CoLab if you're a tech business that needs a space. So we have these resources that we refer out to constantly, but they're not getting lost. These people would otherwise get lost in the system and not be able to even get that referral to a trusted partner, but they do because of the work that we do through the spring.
Okay, very good. Robert, you're recognized.
Yeah, I'm going to say, Jeff, I'm going to support looking into this. It is a different vehicle than what Florida West does. You know, and I think to have the help of a local entity that's helping local businesses start up. I mean, I have a friend that does something similar in Memphis that's been very successful, and what it does is it creates a hub, right? I mean, when you get the synergies, I mean, I've toured the one in Tallahassee that they have down. I mean, they converted an old. I mean, it's almost like a co-work space, but they converted the old train station. And people can come in, and as they graduate, they move into the bigger offices with the, you know, everything like that. But to offer the help that a lot of these businesses need, because as we're all too familiar, is that a lot of people have great business ideas. They're not very good at actual business side of it, though, right? You know,
Right.
and I think,
Oh,
and so when you have mentors that can help grow a company. I would love to see some internal growth from our community on what they're focused on that can, I mean, that's really one way to grow economic development locally.
Any other questions? Commissioner May?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Rachel, and thank you for all the research and the coaching that I know you do. And you brought my dear friend Rodney Jackson all the way from Texas, so it's always good to see a local guy. But I guess, Rachel, I mean, probably at the end of the day, you know, Robert, I'm going to be supportive. We're probably not going to increase the budget. And so the collaboration between Gulf Coast Minority Chamber, which is kind of their focus, is to recruit and retain minority businesses. I think that's the laser focus of what Brian has done. And I've probably yelled at the top of my voice to Florida West, you know, how do you grow small businesses? How do you grow minority businesses? So I guess, you know, for me, can you kind of map out how you work with Gulf Coast Minority Chamber, how you work with Florida West, and how can we massage that collaboratively together? Because I think at the end of the day, we all want to educate our children, prepare them for the future, and create jobs for our local residents. I mean, to me, that's the whole goal of economic development, is job creation. Create small businesses, they grow, we create jobs. And so I'm just trying to figure out the current relationships and the dynamics between, and Steve, I don't want to leave you out because I know you need, you know, more than just, you know, paving clay roads. You need a couple of jobs up north. So, I mean, I think a part of that economic development is, you know, also the town of Century economic development as well. And so how do you all work together in this collaborative economic development? Because I believe that we have to all march from the same beat. All that we may be doing different things, but it's the same beat, because the beat is to create jobs. So
Yeah.
I'll give you the mic back, Rachel. I'm sorry, that was a little long-winded for the passion,
And
because
I'm with
I
you.
want to figure out how we are going to, and we're probably not going to work it out today, but how do we
Yeah.
work this out without increasing the budget?
Yeah, well, I think that's why we stepped into that space, because there wasn't anybody who was bringing all of these entities together and doing that mapping out. And like I said, back in 2015, when it was Gulf Power, Pensacola State College, UWF, we all came together, the chambers, Florida West, us. The Institute was just getting started at that point. We didn't even have programs that supported entrepreneurship. To say, let's not duplicate, let's do exactly what you're saying, Lumen, let's work together to really make our community a place where we can grow jobs, where we can attract people here, where we can help existing businesses grow, where we can do what Florida West does really well, which is attract new businesses here. And so in terms of the specific question of working with the Gulf Coast Minority Chamber, they certainly do obviously want to keep minority businesses here and growing. They don't provide the level of mentorship that we do, specifically to look at somebody's finances and sit down with them, go over their profit and loss statement. They don't specifically help businesses get ready to respond to RFPs to the county, which again, we participated in the workshop that the county put on.
Well, that's hurtful, because I've preached that for a long time, that minority businesses needed help in the procurement. But go ahead, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Well, please don't take it that way if that was, it was not meant that way. I think what we have is these 36 volunteer mentors, and Brian is one of them. He is one of our mentors. He comes to our monthly mentor meetings. We go to his meetings. We go to various of those different, and again, that's why we've brought Rodney in to be able to make sure that we're going to those meetings. He goes to the closing the wealth gap meetings, and so on. So we're all trying to get on the same page, but just to provide this high level of help and mentorship to be able to do what we're all trying to do, but not tread on each other's toes.
All right, seeing no more.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you for
Appreciate the
being here
work.
today. We'll take it under advisement.
Thank
Thank you.
Okay, last up, Keep Pensacola Beautiful. I'm assuming this will be a wave in support? Or- Wave in support. We like your style. Anything else for the good of the order? That's the end of the agenda.
No, sir.
We're adjourned.